103,000-ton warship the size of a skyscraper turned so sharply that a $67 million fighter jet slid right off its deck and plunged into the Red Sea. This wasn't an accident during a peaceful cruise. The USS Harry S. Truman was dodging incoming Houthi missiles in real combat. While most people think aircraft carriers are sitting ducks in modern warfare, these nuclear-powered giants are pulling off maneuvers that seem physically impossible. The techniques they use to dodge hypersonic missiles traveling at Mach 10 are not just impressive, they're rewriting the rules of naval warfare. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about these floating fortresses. Introduction. Aircraft carriers represent the crown jewels of American naval power. Each one costs over $13 billion and carries more than 5,000 personnel. But here's the problem. Adversaries have developed carrier-killer missiles specifically designed to sink these giants before they can even launch their aircraft. China's DF-26 can strike from 2,000 miles away. Russia's hypersonic missiles travel faster than anything we can intercept. Iran's proxies fire swarms of drones and cruise missiles in coordinated attacks. Yet despite all these threats, American carriers continue operating in the world's most dangerous waters, and they're surviving. The reason isn't luck. It's a combination of cutting-edge technology, tactical brilliance, and some truly crazy defensive techniques that most people never hear about. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on exactly how these massive ships dodge the most advanced weapons on the planet. If you're proud of what our Navy accomplishes every single day, type "proud" in the comments below. The real threat. Let's start with the harsh reality. Modern anti-ship missiles have changed naval warfare forever. Back in World War II, carriers worried about torpedoes and dive bombers. Today, the threats are exponentially more dangerous. China's DF-21D, nicknamed the Carrier Killer, is a ballistic missile that comes screaming down from space at hypersonic speeds. It carries a maneuverable warhead that can adjust its course during flight, making traditional interception nearly impossible. But that's just one weapon in an entire arsenal designed specifically to sink American carriers. The Chinese also deployed the DF-17 in recent years, equipped with a hypersonic glide vehicle that performs what military analysts call extreme maneuvers during flight. This thing doesn't follow a predictable path like older missiles. It skips along the edge of the atmosphere, weaving and dodging to avoid defensive systems. U.S. defense officials confirmed it hit a stationary target within meters during testing. Now imagine that accuracy against a moving ship. The Russians aren't sitting idle either. Their Kinzhal hypersonic missile and Zircon cruise missile present similar challenges. These weapons travel at Mach 9 or faster, giving defenders only seconds to react. Then there's the swarm threat. In April 2025, the USS Harry S. Truman spent several hours defending against Houthi, launched anti-ship cruise missiles and one-way attack drones. Not just one or two missiles, coordinated waves designed to overwhelm defensive systems. The Houthis have been refining their tactics, possibly with targeting data from Iran and potentially advanced Russian P-800 Onyx missiles. This isn't theoretical anymore. American warships are facing these threats right now, in real combat situations, and they're forced to employ every defensive technique available. The challenge is simple but brutal. How do you protect a ship the size of 3 football fields from weapons that cost a fraction of what the ship is worth, travel faster than anything in our arsenal, and can come from multiple directions simultaneously? The impossible maneuvers. This brings us to one of the most shocking defensive techniques carriers use: aggressive evasive maneuvers. Most people assume something as massive as an aircraft carrier can't possibly move fast enough or turn sharply enough to dodge a missile. They're wrong. Dead wrong. These nuclear-powered behemoths are surprisingly agile, and captains aren't afraid to push them to their limits when missiles are inbound. Satellite imagery from April 2025 captured the USS Harry S. Truman making a dramatic turn in the Red Sea, just days before that FA-18 Super Hornet fell overboard. The turn was so sharp it left a visible wake pattern from space. When a carrier executes a high-speed evasive maneuver, it performs what's called a zigzag tactic, rapidly changing course and speed to complicate targeting solutions for incoming weapons. The ship lists heavily to one side during these turns, creating conditions so extreme that unsecured equipment can slide across the deck. That's exactly what happened when the Super Hornet and its tow tractor lost control and went into the water. The physics are remarkable. A Nimitz-class carrier at full speed can make turns that create massive course changes in seconds. The nuclear reactors provide virtually unlimited power, allowing the ship to maintain maximum speed during extended evasive action. Traditional diesel-powered ships can't match this capability. They'd run out of fuel trying to sustain such aggressive maneuvers. But carriers can zigzag at high speed for hours if necessary, constantly changing their position and making it exponentially harder for enemy missiles to track them. Timing is everything. The carrier's sophisticated radar systems detect incoming threats from hundreds of miles away. The moment a missile launch is detected, the tactical action officer has to make split-second decisions. Does the ship maintain course and rely on defensive weapons, or does the captain order evasive maneuvers? In the Red Sea engagements, the Truman chose both, firing defensive systems while simultaneously maneuvering. The result? The ship survived multiple attack waves, though the aggressive maneuvers came at the cost of that $67 million aircraft. Before we dive deeper, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but makes a huge difference to us. The invisible shield. Evasive maneuvers are just one layer. The real magic happens with the carrier's layered defense systems, a technological marvel that creates what military experts call an invisible shield around the ship. This isn't science fiction. It's integrated warfare systems working in perfect harmony to destroy threats before they ever reach the carrier. The outermost layer starts with SM-6 interceptor missiles launched from accompanying Aegis destroyers. These missiles can engage threats over 240 miles away, intercepting ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and even hypersonic weapons during their terminal phase. The SM-6 is dual-capable, meaning it can target both high-altitude ballistic threats and low-altitude sea-skimming missiles. Newer variants are specifically designed to intercept hypersonic glide vehicles, the same type of weapons China is deploying. As threats get closer, the ship's self-defense system takes over. This is the carrier's own integrated combat system, and it's terrifyingly effective. The SSDS coordinates multiple sensors and weapons simultaneously, automating the fire control loop to shorten reaction times from minutes to seconds. It tracks sea-skimming missiles, weapons that fly just 20 feet above the water to avoid radar detection, and assigns the optimal weapon system to intercept each threat. The system can handle multiple incoming missiles at once, prioritizing targets based on threat level and engagement probability. Then, there's the Rolling Airframe Missile System, or RAM. These are short-range, fire-and-forget missiles designed for terminal defense. When an anti-ship missile gets within a few miles of the carrier, RAM missiles launch and autonomously guide themselves to the threat using infrared and radar homing. They're incredibly fast and maneuverable, capable of making sharp turns to intercept even the most agile enemy weapons. Carriers typically have multiple RAM launchers positioned around the ship, providing 360-degree coverage. The final layer is Phalanx, the last line of defense. This is a 20mm Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds per minute. It's completely autonomous, using radar to track and engage threats within 1 mile of the ship. In January 2024, the destroyer USS Gravely used its Phalanx system to shoot down a Houthi cruise missile that got within 1 mile, the first confirmed combat use against a Houthi weapon. The system literally threw up a wall of tungsten rounds that shredded the incoming missile. Carriers have multiple Phalanx systems, and they activate automatically when threats penetrate all other defensive layers. Electronic warfare magic. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not every defensive technique involves explosions and kinetic kills. Some of the most effective methods are completely invisible, electronic warfare systems that trick, confuse, and deceive enemy missiles without firing a single shot. The ANSLQ-32 Electronic Warfare Suite is standard on all carriers. This system detects enemy radar emissions, identifies the type of threat, and can automatically deploy countermeasures or jam the incoming weapon's guidance system. When a radar-guided missile locks onto a carrier, the SLQ-32 can flood the missile seeker with false signals, making it lose track of the actual ship. It's like shining a flashlight in someone's eyes while you move to a different position. Then there's chaff, one of the oldest but still most effective countermeasures. The Mark 36 Super Rapid Bloom offboard countermeasure system launches clouds of aluminum-coated fibers that create massive radar returns. To an enemy missile's radar, these chaff clouds look like dozens of ships. Carriers can have up to 8 SRBOC launchers positioned around the hull, each holding 12 to 36 rounds. During an attack, these systems can fire chaff in coordinated patterns, creating a radar nightmare for incoming weapons. The Navy has also deployed Nulka active decoys, hovering projectiles that don't just reflect radar signals, but actually transmit them. These decoys launch from the ship, hover in the air using rocket propulsion, and emit radio frequency energy that mimics the carrier's radar signature. To an approaching missile, the Nulka looks more attractive than the actual ship. The missile chases the decoy instead of the carrier, and by the time it realizes the deception, it's run out of fuel or been intercepted. The real genius is how these systems work together. During the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, Israeli missile boats successfully jammed every single anti-ship missile fired at them using electronic warfare. The Arab forces had longer-range missiles and should have won those engagements, but they never scored a hit because their weapons couldn't see through the electronic jamming. Modern American carriers use similar techniques, refined with decades of additional technology. The Navy doesn't publicize exactly how effective these systems are, but the fact that no carrier has been sunk by enemy action since World War II speaks volumes. The human element. Technology is impressive, but it's useless without highly trained crews who know how to use it under pressure. Every sailor manning a defensive station on a carrier has trained for thousands of hours specifically for missile defense scenarios. They run drills constantly, simulating saturation attacks where dozens of missiles come from multiple directions simultaneously. The training is so realistic that when actual combat happens, the crew responds with almost mechanical precision. The Combat Information Center is the brain of the entire operation. This is where tactical officers monitor multiple screens showing radar data, satellite feeds, and threat assessments updated in real time. When an attack develops, the CIC becomes a choreographed dance of communication and decision-making. Officers are calling out threat bearings, engagement ranges, and defensive responses while the automated systems are simultaneously engaging targets. The humans verify the machine decisions, override when necessary, and coordinate the overall defensive strategy. Recent incidents have shown both the strengths and weaknesses of this system. The investigation into the USS Harry S. Truman's series of mishaps between December 2024 and May 2025 revealed critical lessons. In December, a friendly fire incident occurred when the cruiser USS Gettysburg shot down one of Truman's own FA-18s. The investigation found that lack of reintegrated training between the ships contributed to the misidentification. The crew had been defending against Houthi missiles for hours. Fatigue was setting in, and procedures weren't followed precisely. This led to a tragic mistake. But here's the thing. The Navy learned from it immediately. Training protocols were updated, communication procedures were reinforced, and integration exercises were mandated before combat operations. That's the American military's greatest strength. When mistakes happen, the system adapts, improves, and comes back stronger. The sailors manning these defensive stations aren't just following checklists. They're constantly learning, adapting, and refining their skills based on real-world combat experience that no other Navy on Earth is gaining. The stress these crews operate under is immense. Imagine standing watch in the Red Sea, knowing that at any moment a hypersonic missile could appear on your screen traveling at Mach 10, giving you less than 30 seconds to react. The margin for error is zero. One wrong decision, one delayed response, and thousands of sailors could die. Yet day after day, these men and women perform flawlessly, protecting not just the carrier, but the entire strike group and the mission objectives that depend on them. The future of carrier defense. The threats aren't getting easier, they're getting worse. But the Navy isn't standing still. Right now, the most revolutionary defensive technology in development is directed energy weapons. The Helios system, high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance, is already being tested on destroyers. This is a laser weapon powerful enough to burn through drone hulls and potentially destroy incoming missiles. The advantage is simple: unlimited magazine depth. Traditional missiles and bullets run out. Lasers don't. As long as the ship has power, which nuclear carriers have in abundance, the laser can keep firing. The limitations are being worked out. Lasers struggle in bad weather and heavy atmospheric conditions. Their effective range is currently shorter than missile systems. But the technology is advancing rapidly, and within the next decade, carriers will likely have multiple laser systems providing an additional defensive layer that costs pennies per shot compared to million-dollar interceptor missiles. The Navy is also extending the carrier's operational envelope. The MQ-25 Stingray drone refueler is now operational, allowing carrier-based fighters to operate hundreds of miles farther from the ship. This means carriers can stay farther away from threat zones while still projecting power. The upcoming 6th-generation fighters under the Next Generation Air Dominance program will have even greater range, advanced sensors, and the ability to control loyal wingman drones. These developments push the entire carrier strike group farther from enemy missiles while maintaining offensive capability. Perhaps most importantly, the Navy has embraced distributed operations. Instead of concentrating all assets around a single carrier, strike groups are spreading out over vast areas of ocean. This makes targeting exponentially harder for adversaries. Finding one carrier in millions of square miles of ocean is already difficult. Finding multiple carriers operating independently while coordinating their actions is nearly impossible with current technology. China would need to monitor the entire Western Pacific simultaneously and continuously track these moving targets while penetrating layers of defensive systems. It's a problem that even their advanced military hasn't solved. Conclusion. The next time someone tells you aircraft carriers are obsolete, remember what you've learned today. These ships aren't sitting ducks. They're technological marvels backed by the most skilled sailors on the planet, employing defensive techniques that range from impossible high-speed maneuvers to invisible electronic warfare to kinetic kill systems that would make science fiction writers jealous. The fact that no American carrier has been lost to enemy action in over 80 years isn't luck. It's the result of continuous innovation, relentless training, and the dedication of thousands of sailors who stand ready to defend these ships every single day. If you found this video valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. And remember, our Navy is out there right now, protecting freedom of navigation and projecting American power across the globe. They deserve our support.